Hey everyone. So today is something a little bit different in regards to the videos that have been on my channel. Usually, today I'm joined by Wayde, who is a long-standing 3D artist in the industry. And we thought we'd switch up a little bit and talk about the industry as a whole, kind of Wayde's background, software, careers and portfolios and standing out in the industry in the modern day, and the current AI landscape in the 3D industry and the future of CGI. So yeah, Wayde, introduce yourself. Let us get to know you a little bit more.
Thanks. Yeah, hi guys. Yeah, glad to introduce myself. I've been in the industry almost 3 decades now. Started in South Africa, then relocated to the UK, where the industry was much bigger, and Australia later, and back to the UK, and now in the Middle East and Dubai. And over the past 30 years, many things have changed, and in terms of 3D, a lot less than what's happening with the AI landscape. I started doing commercials, corporate videos, and then when I moved to the UK, moved into films, TV series, occasional commercials, and nowadays focused in mainly commercials, product design, immersive experience, and digital out-of-home campaigns. So working for things like Times Square, the Sphere, and yeah, also getting into the AI landscape. I think any 3D artist should have an eye out for what's happening in the AI landscape, because I believe the 3D and AI is going to have a hybrid pipeline, and there's both skills or technologies have their good points.
Yeah, absolutely. Throughout your time in the industry, what's something other than AI that has been kind of something super recent in the last couple of years that you've also seen develop to change the industry, that you've had to kind of adapt to in terms of to add to your workflow, software, or new industry trends and things like that?
Yeah, I think the main thing, when I first started, the equipment and software was extremely expensive, but nowadays equipment and it's relatively cheap in comparison. You have very good free softwares available, like Blender, which is a good starter package. So it's a lot more accessible for people to get into the industry. When I started, softwares were very difficult to come by, or like a workstation with a licensed software to use and learn on. And so, and also with the social media and YouTube, it's almost become like a university where you can learn any skill online. You can learn it. You can pay for courses, or you can,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I started off in Cinema 4D like 7 years ago. So, and I understand Cinema 4D is only just one kind of amongst all of the different softwares. But yeah, I mean, absolutely, software and also education has never been so, I guess, readily available. I mean, there's YouTube tutorials, literally, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of them now, and I find that it's never been so accessible at the moment, especially with free software like Blender or and even Cinema 4D. If you have a little bit of upfront capital, it's not anything crazy where it's like £3,000 licenses outright, that kind of thing. So I think not only software but also education across the whole board is just so much more accessible now, which is absolutely fantastic, because it makes something that, in my opinion, is quite a challenging skill, not something that you need so much upfront capital or you need to go to a specific institution or place to learn. So yeah, I mean, I think this is just, it's a very unique industry in terms of how easily you can get in and learn, and also start making a living or start making money off of it. if you're kind of willing to be focused on it and things like that. But yeah, no, I couldn't agree more with the accessibility and ease of access to everything.
And yeah, I'll give you another example. One of the softwares they use is Houdini. And then a few years ago, they brought out the freelance version and the learning edition. So you can basically download it for free to learn. Again, that was a software that was not accessible to the general public. Now you can learn it for free, as opposed to trying to find a workstation with an expensive license. And then they opened up the freelance market as well with a relatively cheap option, which I think is like $300 for 2 years, and you get two licenses, and that's for freelance users. So before, Houdini users were like a dime a dozen, and now it's much more widespread. And so the whole concept model of that has changed as well. Essentially, you have a lot more access for people to do CGI and 3D effects. And for me, that's just the way it is. And I think everyone can have the chance to learn 3D and see what they can do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like it being more accessible makes it relate to other artistic kind of industries as well. To take up painting or to take up drawing or architecture or anything, a lot of those don't take up kind of much upfront costs. And I feel like 3D or CGI, when you introduce things like hardware and software, it all seems very expensive initially, but having these lower kind of paid options for software allows people to have the incentive of actually learning it and bringing young people into the industry, which is what we need. We need new people joining into the CGI and 3D industry itself. And we can't, just have one last generation of it. I think we're going to continue needing it. Even throughout kind of everyone saying AI is going to replace 3D, 3D and CG, I think we're so far off that. And I think, we're going to need people learning 3D and CGI and growing in the industry for so much longer. And I think the skills you pick up along the way in terms of the 3D industry, no matter what path that is, if that's film, commercials, product design, whatever, it's really transferable to other creative things as well. So yeah.
And the media formats is expanding. So there's, for example, you now have immersive events. So that's just another format that has been added that needs 3D and CGI. Outdoor advertising in the past, I think, only really started 3, maybe 4 years ago for 3D. So that's another fairly new industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Was when you were getting into 3D, was there kind of a point in your career where you were like, I could make this work. This seems like a real career path, or is it just kind of a really natural transition into something for you?
It started off as a hobby. I remember watching Terminator 2, and you see the Terminator, come out of form this like chrome human, and the fire reflecting in the chrome as it's walking out. And I just thought, thought that would just be like a bus job to do. And yeah, that probably was the trigger that inspired me to get into 3D. And then, I taught myself at school. So when I was like 15, softwares like Autodesk Animator, it's like a 2D. And then 3D Studio version 2, version 4, 3D Studio Max, Softimage, Maya, and Houdini, and Blender as well nowadays, and some AI as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been in Cinema 4D kind of my entire 3D career. I haven't ventured to much ones kind of before that. I guess Cinema 4D, has been... It's somewhat new, kind of, especially in terms of popularity. I think definitely in the past kind of 10 to 15 years, I'd say, is kind of the main focus for Cinema 4D. And before then, kind of, I don't know, wasn't covering enough of the industry for it to be a predominant software. Not sure if I'm kind of correct in saying that, but that's kind of the vibe I got from it when I was starting off in Cinema 4D. And then I've branched into kind of Maya for rigging and UV jobs. Houdini I found is too intense for my brain at times, and I need to just stick to my product visualization and not crazy explosions and things. But just like you, I was inspired by films and visual effects in films. I think that's where so many people start from because they're like, I want to make that, and they realize I'm going to need a little bit of practice and time before, I can start executing on that kind of work.
Yeah, it's always about using the right software for the job. If you're a small operation, Cinema 4D, Blender, completely fine. Houdini is great if you're in a larger teams because of the procedural nature and how the software is designed. You can always edit things and fix things, which is very important. And and very easy to share assets between users and make into pipelines.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in terms of people getting into the industry now, maybe people coming out of college or university, and things like that, what kind of opportunities and places in the industry do you think most 3D artists are currently overlooking? They're like, oh, I just want to get into this part of the film industry, but not necessarily looking at these quieter, possibly areas where they could be making more income or enjoying themselves a little bit more. What ones are you finding are still pretty low key, but really important for people
I
to know
think
about?
the probably when I was younger, we didn't have YouTube and all the content that's created on YouTube. So I think there's a huge market for 3D content on YouTube.
Yeah.
There's already a few YouTubers are using a lot of 3D, be it lower production value. But, I think with the more popularity people are getting on YouTube and hundreds of millions of followers, I think it will have a growing market there. And then the other notable ones is immersive experience, because I believe brands want to take their brands into the next, you say, level by having immersive experiences with their brands. So I think there'll be a lot of opportunities there. And yeah, what would another one be? Yeah, potentially other forms of social media, and be it Instagram or TikTok or something. The forms that are definitely have been getting less is films. Partly, I think, because of what happened with COVID and the shutting down of films, and then the writers' strike, which was one thing that also really made me look at other uses where you can apply 3D.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I see 3D and CGI in kind of to hone in on your immersive experience points. I feel like that's just such an area where we've kind of, as an industry, dabbled into that with things like events and kind of showing off products and things like that. But I think there's going to be even more of an evolution in terms of immersive events and the need for CG and 3D visuals for that. It's just not something I see AI covering yet. Just because of the scale of it and the direction you need for it and the technical capabilities, it's not something I see being, automated and run by a prompt. So I completely agree with you. It's not actually an industry I've tapped in too much. I mean, I've done some fake out of home bits where you're kind of putting the 3D on the side of the building, or like a massive object coming out of something in London, that kind of thing. So I've dabbled in it a bit. It's incredibly enjoyable because it's like your little bit of the film industry in it, because you're putting a 3D object in a real life scene, and that kind of thing. So I've only done a little bit of work into it, but I think that is definitely a growing industry, and I'm seeing more and more of it, especially with the whole events culture really growing. I think people want something new, want the next biggest thing at the next kind of biggest event, that kind of thing. So I don't see that industry going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, because those create viral things that brands can share on social media.
Yeah, exactly. And in a world where someone's attention span is, 2 to 3 seconds as they're scrolling on TikTok or Instagram, I feel like creating the thing that really stops someone in their tracks, or even, at really large music events or company events,
Mm.
is where things will start standing out from the crowd. And I think that's where not only a lot of, money and businesses, but a lot of creativity and enjoyment is as well, is just creating new things that haven't been seen in
Mm.
the events or social media industry.
Yeah, I always say to my clients that if you have a still of your product on Instagram, people are going to scroll past. But if you have an engaging animation, because our eyes are naturally drawn to motion, just a part of our evolution, our eyes will automatically, see it and react to it. And if it's engaging enough, people will watch it to the end or click on the link.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see an increase in the need for animations because I think AI is really good at the moment at just creating a very basic generic still. And that's something where the artists need to grow out from and just start evolving with AI itself. I think AI is just really good at doing a generic image and then not taking it much further than that. It struggles with the detail and things. So I think from my perspective, if you're starting out as an artist or wanting to develop as an artist, look into animation and taking your visuals from just more of a generic still into something more sellable to a client or even to an agency or studio that you could be hired by. Don't just focus on one kind of medium, with possibly that stills, but try and learn a bunch of different things in terms of animation or fake out of home or that kind of thing. It makes you a lot more attractive as a hire, but also not just you executing on it, but also technical knowledge and creative ideas and ideation. So yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. I think as 3D artists, you can't be stuck, especially in this industry, doing the same thing, because the person behind you is going to be learning the next kind of thing of how they're pushing the bar of their quality of work. So yeah, I absolutely agree. I think learning a different type of skill or growing on your skills is super vital at the moment.
Yeah, my best advice for people is try to be the best person in the room at what you do, and even if you not the best, at least try and and be and keep an open mind and with new things happening because everything evolves. You look at the Industrial Revolution, 150 years ago or something. That things were changing then, and things are changing now as well. So just keep open eye with your work. Just do your best work. Yeah, we can also talk about the how to start out if you're new to 3D and
Yeah, absolutely.
how we can
Yeah.
approach it.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of someone who maybe not have not chosen a kind of 3D software yet, or are thinking about getting into the industry, what kind of 3D software or 3D package are you kind of recommending? Personally, I would go for a different one than what I've learned initially. So from my perspective, a few years ago, maybe even 4 years ago, I would have said to anyone, right, Cinema 4D, learn it. I think it just covers such a vast ground now. And it's definitely very profitable because of how quick and easy it is for product visualization, modeling, even texturing, and all things like that. But I think in the kind of growing landscape of the 3D industry, I think Blender is one that is super great for new people. But on the completely other side of the spectrum, I also think Houdini is because of how technically advanced it is. But I understand people may not want to start using Houdini because of how technically advanced it is. But for me, if I was starting now, I would be looking at Blender because I think there's so much growth opportunity and learning opportunity there. On a kind of free educational basis, the community, everything. I still think Cinema 4D is absolutely fantastic for that kind of thing. But if I had never touched 3D before, it would definitely be Blender. And I think that's what a lot of colleges and universities are starting to kind of teach their, I was going to say clients then, start teaching their students on, just because of the accessibility, and I think the growth on it is so much more. But yeah, for me, it would be start out on Blender. And if you were looking at a different industry, possibly it would have to be Houdini. I think it's completely unmatched in terms of its capabilities and things like that.
Yes, I think Blender is, I mean, it's free, so that's, you can't beat that. And as you say, the community is supporting it, the amount of content, the ease of use of the software. Although I wouldn't say it's the easiest, but as an artist, when you're up and running, it's probably the quickest to do things. So I would definitely recommend Blender because it has a more accessible way into the how 3D works. Houdini is great as well. It's definitely very complicated. Because it has effects, film pipeline built into it, and it's extremely technical. And as where a lot of these other softwares, they've kind of done some of these technical setups behind it to make it more artist friendly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so Blender I would recommend. I know there are a lot of people using Cinema 4D with motion graphics, product visualization as well, and I believe it's very good as well. I think it doesn't really matter what you go into. It just depends on how willing you are to learn. And the best way I would say, if you want to learn a project, a software, make a project that you want to do, and then through trying to do that project through the software, you'll learn what you need to do to get that project made.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the most important thing I'm seeing right now, even when I'm looking at hiring artists for my studio or the positions I'm at, we need to see work on portfolios. CV is great, and your experience in text format is fantastic, but what really sets you apart for me when I'm looking at it is what is on your portfolio and how is it executed, and I want full breakdowns on that. I want to see the thought process behind things. I think having a really experienced CV and things like that, but not having much on your portfolio with much kind of, I guess, different work from product to commercials or motion design is kind of it ends up going really far down on my list compared to someone who might not have much on their CV, but their portfolio is vast. They've got so much on there. They've explored so many different skills and industries. I think that is so much more of a higher quality of someone. So I'd say just start making projects of products you like, perhaps. So for example, I'm really into watches and horology. I just love modeling a watch and texturing it and getting lights in it. I think it's fantastic. I think you can really get a good taste for it. And that's an enjoyment of mine. So find an enjoyment that you have in real life or a hobby or other objects that you really like. Maybe it's even cars, and just start doing passion projects on it, because not only I think does it make you really hireable, but the more work you post on, I guess, LinkedIn or Instagram or Behance, the more people are looking at your work, whether that's direct clients or people hiring agencies and studios. So don't just practice your things kind of in the dark and behind the scenes. I think really focus on getting it out there, breaking down what you've done, showing off your skills. I think really honing in on this whole man-made type of thing, especially with this whole generative trend going on at the moment. I think really showing your breakdowns, your wireframes, how you went about something is something so key at the moment. But yeah, I'm interested in your thoughts on that, Wayde.
Yeah, it's if you starting off, I agree. You want to do, you need to create, if you have nothing, you need to create content, and you need to decide what that content, will be. So to do things that you are interested in, and like you gave an example of, you like watches, you like making watches, making them beautiful, rendering them, lighting them. And that's a very good place to start. And but also I think sometimes you need more than passion, and then that's just pure dedication to have a goal. This is, I want to create 5 projects for my portfolio. I want to create it within 2 months or 3 months, and then you go and you build this portfolio. Maybe you don't make it by 2 months, but you will at least have 1 to maybe 3 projects finished, and then that will be the start of your portfolio. So I believe in what I call parallel pipelines. So as you're building your projects, it's if you want to start working, to get a job or some kind of work placement, is also to reach out to people in the industry, and there's multiple ways to go about that. And yeah, we can also discuss this if you like.
Yeah, absolutely, go for it.
So the first way is to have a presence. So to make a website, to talk about 3D, why you enjoy it, what you're going to do with it, to showcase projects. Next would be to start. I've been the most non-Instagram person, but if you want to promote yourself, I think it's one of the best ways online to do it. Next would be LinkedIn. Connect to people in the industry, in LinkedIn. Communities as well, like be involved in if you're learning Blender, be involved in the Blender community. See if you can build up sort of a trusted alliance amongst people. And you always find some things will work out, some things won't. That's just life. But the more things you try, you're going to get things happening for you and going in the right direction. Then I would also say just ask around through friends and family if they know people in the industry who you can speak to. Get contacts. And I know when I first came to the UK, I had no direct contacts, but I managed to get 1 direct contact, and that sort of opened the industry through the back door, you could say.
Yeah, absolutely. I also think one to kind of add to your list is make yourself or get yourself to in-person events, whatever kind of 3D or CGI or film or effects in-person events there are in your city or your country. Get yourself there, because I think putting faces to people in the industry is so vital and so important in such a digital and online based community. I think putting something tangible, putting a face on it, actually talking to people in real life is where so many new connections happen. I know when I've been to kind of in-person events and got talking with people, it's just so inspiring to know that there are people around you doing a similar thing, because it's so rare that you also just somehow bump into someone who's also a 3D artist on the street or whatever, or another 3D artist in real life. So I think really getting yourself to in-person events when it's such a digital world now, and we're just communicating over or getting hired over LinkedIn or online meetings, I think still doing it the old-fashioned way is so vital in terms of meeting people, going to discussions and talks. I think it even if it's not something directly into your industry or avenue in 3D and CGI, it's so important. But yeah, I absolutely agree. I think as a 3D artist, you need to become almost a content creator in the modern way, because I think you need to get your work on Instagram, possibly even TikTok. I understand clients might not directly be on TikTok, and then for your higher up, I guess, individual contacts in the industry, it would definitely be LinkedIn. As much as people say, "Oh, I hate LinkedIn," and hating that kind of whole really corporate way of it, I've personally got the most most jobs, the most kind of opportunities through LinkedIn, and also directly to brand owners and marketing directors and things like that. So yeah, I absolutely agree with you.
Yeah, LinkedIn is great. So the point you touched on about industry events, that's a gold mine as well. And if you're passionate about the what you do, it will show through. You'll connect to people, you'll make contacts, and you also just need to be a little bit patient and dedicated at the same time. I always talk about the theory of the dam wall. When you put enough pressure on something, eventually that dam wall will break through, and you'll start to get those. Things will start to flow, and you'll get those contacts. You'll get those emails. You get those phone numbers. You get those pitches for jobs. You get those jobs, and then those jobs multiply, and it's just a natural, organic process.
Yeah, I think it's such a snowball effect on you, and you will really notice it. The more work you post or the more passion projects you get out, the more you do get in return. It is like that. It will take quite a few projects. It's not an industry that is, spend 2 weeks on it and you're instantly earning an income. It's just not how it is. But that first few months of complete dedication just completely snowballs and compounds into, okay, now my project is getting more attraction, and now my other ones are getting more attraction, and suddenly my network on LinkedIn's growing, and now I'm connected to all these brand owners and people in agencies and studios. And LinkedIn is such a great way to almost create a spider web of connections to people in the industry. And there's always things popping up, and there's always people looking for work. Or hiring, that is. So I think LinkedIn's great, and Instagram and kind of TikTok and things like that are more directly to kind of brands and people working at these large brands for you to work as possibly under your own company or as a sole kind of artist. But LinkedIn is great, just getting into the studios and the agencies and with other artists in the industry. And I would have said Instagram and things like that is great to just get in front of bigger brands where they can reach out to you and that kind of thing. But yeah, I found LinkedIn is honestly the best, and Behance in terms of posting my work to. Those two are the most I've received work inquiries from.
Great. Yeah, I agree with LinkedIn. It's also where I've received most of my work, and it's a good place where you can literally just keep all your contacts, and they're always there. And so, I remember so-and-so from this company, and how can I contact them? You can just message them on LinkedIn instead of looking for a contact on email somewhere. It's just a great way to organize. It's basically a professional tool to keep in contact with people. Highly recommended.
Yeah, definitely. I guess just to touch back on kind of the software things, as I think I have quite an important, note here. It's what skills do you find are transferable across every 3D software? So no matter what you use, what are you finding is just that person's really good at that, and if they can do it in Blender, they can do it in Cinema, and if they can do it in Cinema, they can do it in Maya.
Yeah, I think it's we've been talking a lot about the technical skills, but there's also the artistic skills you need to talk about as well. So that's having a good eye for lighting, composition, and for animation in terms of timing and editing, because we're making films at the end of the day, so we need to make sure the pace works. We are storytellers, and sometimes it can be difficult when you got your head in some code or something. So I would say, besides having just knowing the software and what buttons to push, it's also important to look at what is good composition, what is good lighting. One thing I like a lot about a lot of these tutorials that people are doing is they do give some insights into this as well, and as you learn, you'll probably pick up these skills as well. But I would say, if you have a good basis of that, you can be a good lighter in Blender, and then you'll be a good lighter in Maya and Houdini, and it's because you have a good understanding of good lighting, composition, 3-point lighting, how to light something and make it look desirable.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say, I think in terms of skills, it's not just about technical and knowing where that button is and how to get there the quickest or that kind of thing, or how something works. I think it's genuine taste in terms of visuals, because that's what sets you apart from the AI generation. It doesn't have any taste. It's just splicing together pixels. And I think having good taste of what a product should look like in a scene, how to show off a product its best, the correct way to light it, referring to how luxury brands or people above you are lighting. So I think lighting is honestly the one thing that's make or break in a 3D project. You could have absolutely fantastic models and a fantastic texturing, but if your actual taste and understanding of how a render looks its best through lighting or composition or whatever, I think it is make or break for a project. I think you can have a bit lower level modeling and texturing, but if your lighting and taste of the scene and composition's fantastic, it brings it up so much more. So yeah, I absolutely agree. I think it's so transferable.
Yeah, I agree. The lighting and composition is the superpower, because as you say, imagine if you go to a nice restaurant, which is all like got nice mood lighting, and you replace that with hospital lighting, you can have a very different experience. It's the same with a commercial. It's that's probably the thing I focus on the most, is just to make the product as interesting as possible with the lighting.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in terms of what you're seeing in the industry at the moment, I'm not too sure if you've done too much hiring, things like that, but do you think people should work on specialists in terms of, they go down directly into texturing or directly into modeling or into rigging or character design or character artist? Or do you think a generalist and someone who is kind of okay or pretty good at a lot of different things in the industry, what ones do you think are really thriving and what ones do you see thriving in the industry in the future?
Well, if I'll just maybe back it up one step, and I would say if you're starting out, be the generalist, because then if you one day want to make a company, you know how modeling works, they can hire a modeler, or how animation works, what good animation is, they can hire an animator or lighting, and then just be the person that maybe has the good eye for how the film should look at the end of the day. That would be what I advise. If you were, it depends on the industry. I spent many years working in all these Hollywood films, and my speciality was initially rigging. So for these Harry Potter creatures, rigging all the characters, but it was something I had done to death. So I wanted, but also had I liked the effects side, so I always did a little bit of effects as well. So then I just went fully down the effects road, and that's generally what you have to do in films. Be a little bit more focused, and you would either be a modeler, animator, lighter, or effects artist. But even as effects artist, you have to be a good lighter. So depending on the company, you might be doing the effects and the lighting 100%.
Yeah, of course.
So I would say lighting is probably the most, the lighting and look dev, I would say, is the most important. Effects is a, how would you say, it's a nice badge to have on your coat, because you can make, with effects, you can push your lighting and composition to the next level, and people go give it that like wow effect. That's my advice. Oh yeah, then character animation, we haven't touched on that. That's very specialized as well. I mean,
Yeah.
I would consider myself a generalist, even though I used to do character rigging. I did character animation. It's something I don't do now because it's such it's very time consuming to animate, and it's something. Yeah, it's better for someone else to do that for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just like an effects artist where it's so technical, getting good animation, or when you take character animation to a whole nother level, like getting it biologically accurate, like you see in the films, with muscles and bones and joints and that kind of thing, it's a really technical route. But if you have a passion for that kind of thing, and this is what I'm touching on again, definitely go down that route. You know, if you find that you're not enjoying, or you're just really enjoying one specific part of the industry, say, I don't know how someone can, but love rigging to just on a whole nother level, just go absolutely follow that route. Because I feel like if you're not doing something, you wake up every day and go, I just want to be doing that. I just want to do that. I think you'll easily lose a passion for it. I think if you're filmmaking, or if you're in the film industry, if you don't have a bit of passion for what you're doing or creating, I just don't think you're an artist. I think you need to create from what you're inspired by, what you really love the look of. So I think going down the specialist route is absolutely fantastic. At the end of the day, specialists are needed and will be needed for ages in the film and VFX industry. But for example, if you're in the product or in product development or marketing, you need to be a generalist. You know, you can't just be a rigger in a 3D product, you know, scenario. So I think it not only depends on what your passion is, but also what industry you want to be in. Film and visual effects, I think, you know, because you're likely to be hired for that specific skill, I think you do need to become a specialist, whether that's effects artist, character artist, texture artist, modeler. Whereas something where it's more product based or marketing or out of home, you do need to be a bit more of a generalist to cover a bit more ground, I think, as you're not always going to have a team of 50, for example, in a CG pipeline. So yeah, I honestly think it comes down to what you're incredibly passionate about, what you're most knowledgeable about, but also what industry interests you the most.
Yeah, it's like the right tool for the job. So
Definitely. I guess moving on to kind of the main thing in the industry that is constantly shifting everyone's work is AI. How are you seeing AI affect the CGI industry at the moment? Is it something you're actively integrating into your workflow? Are you staying away from it? Do you think it's a threat or a tool? That kind of thing.
yeah, it's something I started getting into 2 years ago, and then just kept a lazy eye on it. And the things have been, I mean, it started with stills, and then that was incredible. You know, when these stills you create with a prompt, and a lot of in the industry I work in, a lot of concepts are created with AI, because you can just type in like, I want this like magical forest or something, and if it were to paint it up in Photoshop, would take forever. But you know, you can get like a few different versions, you know, in a couple of I would say like 10, 20 minutes that you would like to work with, and then sort of piece things together into concepts. So it started with concepts, and now the video model, which was released, I think probably 2 years ago, the first ones were very rough, but nowadays they're getting a lot better. I always say for product design, with the current AI models, it's always better to go 3D, because you can get more precision. The text precision on the AI models is improving, and I think I think AI is here to stay. But I would say just have I see a hybrid pipeline between 3D and AI at the moment.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I kind
and
of
also
think
the rendering is, you can like render a sequence of clouds and, in like 4 minutes, like that would take probably a day on your computer to render or something.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I kind of picture it as a tool like Photoshop was for photographers. Everyone thought Photoshop was just going to completely wipe out every single photographer's job because you could just,
Mm.
remove or add things that weren't even there. But I don't think AI is the type of tool to just completely wipe out, CGI and 3D. I used to, and admittedly, be completely against it because I saw it as a threat. And then I
Mm.
realized not everyone is treating it as a threat, and people are using it for their advantage. Some people are now, AI artists and things like that, which I am not kind of fully into. But I think AI is incredibly important, at least in my experience this year, in the past 6 to 7 months. Has been incredibly important and speeding up the process in terms of concepting and referencing, either when working with a client or when a client's approaching you. I think using AI to get the product or get your idea to life, in terms of just initial generation, is fantastic.
Mm.
I think you may have an idea in your head that you're not quite visualizing how you'd go about in 3D, and once it is visualized by a generated piece of art, you can go, okay, how can I then tackle this piece? So I think when a client approaches me, I'm finding that it's either an AI concept or it's generative AI. But I can't blame them because it is a really quick concepting tool. And I think it's great. But also something I've been using it for is adding detail into my stills. So if I was to, for example, get a product and it's in a piece of sand or it's in a mound of rocks and things like that, it's just adding really tiny details that may actually, take hours or a whole day, so much time to get a few sand granules on the product, or dig it down into the sand a little bit more. I'm talking stills here, not animation.
Mm.
I think it's also been really great is combining a render with just a few AI generated elements, just to really kind of bring out the detail of things that would take, 6 hours. I can just bring it up a little bit more in terms of what's in the scene, through a little bit of AI, not doing any of the lighting or, putting the whole model in there or creating the whole scene, but just little details, maybe water droplets or sand particles, that kind of thing. You could even do that with kind of old Photoshop manipulation techniques with stock images and that kind of thing. But I think AI is good at, you plug in your image, you say kind of what detail you want added, and then you can Photoshop that into your original render. So I think it's great for concepting, and I think it's also great for adding kind of small details at the very end. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah.
If I interject, imagine if you watch a commercial, say like a perfume, you'll have a 3D render of a perfume bottle, and then you may have a cut to a live action of a like person's body or something, and then so it's which is actually film footage. So you can also use AI for like creating sequences in between your 3D renders for film.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think people should see it as a threat. I think they should, where it's at now, see it as a tool of how can I use this to
Mm.
not take away the main elements of the 3D pipeline, but how can I speed up the initial process and how can I make the end process look a little bit better rather than taking away that whole kind of middle
Yeah,
section.
well,
So
I
yeah,
understand.
yeah.
Another thing I note with AI is there's a lot of bad AI around, but there are a few good pieces of AI around. So, I mean, anyone can make a 4-second video on a prompt, but to make something that's cohesive and put together is it's a different story. But I think even when we're talking about lighting and composition, even those skills can be transferred to AI.
Yeah, definitely. I think, people shouldn't turn a complete blind eye to it, and I don't think people should just be using AI. I think it's finding a really good middle ground in terms of your workflow that will make you stand out. You know, you don't want to be that one 3D artist that knows absolutely nothing about AI, because it's now such a tool in the industry. So I think to kind of anybody thinking about AI and how they should use it, I think learn how it works, learn how it thinks, learn how prompting works, that kind of thing, because you just don't want to be left in the dark with it no matter what direction it goes down. And I understand as a 3D artist, and Wayde likely does as well, is just it, you know, it does deem as a threat, but it shouldn't be. It should be utilized as a tool. And I think we have to use it as a tool with how kind of huge it is at the moment. So yeah, I think don't turn a blind eye to artificial intelligence in your work. But yeah, that's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, no, I guess when someone comes to think about, I guess, their software starting and things like that, what skills are you finding do you think will matter most in, say, 5 to 10 years? And what, yeah, I guess what ones do you see have the most longevity in terms of the industry?
Oh, that's it's a very good question. We were just talking about AI, so I would say probably most important thing, keep an open eye out with what is happening there. I would say in the past 30 years I've been involved in the industry, things have almost moved at a snail's pace to how things are moving at the moment. And yeah, it's I would say hard to predict. I would still say having the fundamental skills of knowing what looks good. That's it's always, if I approach a project and I want to create a certain look, I'll go and I'll seek like references of what I want, and then note what I like about it, and then try to recreate that in what I'm doing. That's the most important thing over where the button is in Blender or Houdini. That's so I would say just having a good eye for things, knowing how to make things look good is the most important thing. And then that kind of goes over any software, whether it be 3D or AI.
Yeah, I think it's just really emphasizing the point that even though you may learn one specific software, your skills are definitely transferable. It's not just, oh, I've learned one software, I literally can't work or learn another one. I just don't think that's true. I think once you've understood the core fundamentals and principles of how to do it in one software, all it takes is figuring out where that one button in Blender is in Cinema 4D, is in Maya, is in Houdini. So I think when people say, what software should I start on, or what should I just spend my entire career on, don't think that that's not transferable. And if you're finding a specific software is coming out of the cracks and is looking more ideal for your pipeline and your workflow, don't feel the need to not shift to a different software. I think if a software is really thriving in a specific industry and making that certain work look really good, I think lighting, modeling, texturing, whatever it is, are transferable. But I think definitely lighting and composition, touching back on our points earlier, are definitely the most transferable in terms of understanding and making something look good. But I guess to kind of further go into that, what is one mistake and one habit that you kind of see improves work really quickly? So yeah.
Improves work. I would say it's the main thing is to be very clear about what you want at the end of the project you're doing. So having that clarity, because if you have a goal, it's easier to move towards it than if you're just going a random direction. So I would say, that would be the most important thing. It's just having 100% clarity what you want to create, and finding those references. So if I apply to my own personal work, maybe the projects I would have in the past looked at exact kind of references, and then try to go towards those references than just maybe relying on a brief or something. And another thing I just want to touch on before we finish is, although we sit behind the screen creating things, we all salesmen in our own way, in that we have to. So whoever you work with, just be the most professional you can, give them the best results, for their time or what they pay you. And if you have that attitude, I think you'll go very far.
Yeah, absolutely. Wayde, it's been an absolute pleasure. Where can people find your work and follow what you're doing, or find out a little bit more about you?
Yeah, so I'm based in Dubai nowadays. I have a company website. It's solace-works.com, and it features a few projects that I've created, and I'm on LinkedIn. If you wish to connect to me, happy to accept your invitation, and you can connect to me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll link everything down below for you guys to check out Wayde's work and more about him as my cat climbs on the top of the back of my chair. But thank you so much for your time today, Wayde. It was really great diving into some of these questions I think it's really great that these types of long form videos and content do happen, because people are just so scared of modern day kind of industry and work. And it's quite off-putting with my cat now almost on my head. We don't see much of these in the industry, with these kind of long form just discussions about it. And I think it will put a lot of people at ease and just give so much information to people. So I really appreciate your look into the industry and how it's growing. But yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. And always happy to jump on another meeting if you have further topics.